Now, I know that there have been a lot of questions on why the women's reservation cannot be implemented by 2024 or ahead of 2024. And there are also some questions emerging if it can even be a reality by 2029. Remember, Congress leaders and some other commentators have raised this question that actually if you look at delimitation clauses, then the bill is going to be a reality. The implementation can only happen by 2039. So lots of questions. Mahesh Jethmalani, who's BJP's Rajya Sabha MP and senior lawyer, spoke to me about some of these intricacies about the Women's Reservation Bill. Why not now? And will it even happen by 2029? So here's more of that conversation.
So Mahesh Jethmalani, first up, you mentioned in Parliament that there are 3 procedures that have to be completed before any new reservation comes into effect. Could you take us through why the reservation could not be implemented from 2024 onwards?
There are 3 steps in any reservation demarcation, right? The first is the census, right? If there's a impending census, right, you can do it on the basis of an existing census, right? But in view of the fact that we have a census starting in 2024, and really our territorial constituencies are frozen on the basis of a population of 1971, which is 55 crores, and we've already gone to 1.4 billion. Secondly, after census, Article 82 mandates that after every census, there will be a delimitation, which means a readjustment of territorial constituencies. Stage number 3 is in case of special reservations, right? Reservations for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, which already exist under Article 332. And you have now women's reservation, right? You then require what? An identification procedure. So there's census, which tells you population increase. There's a delimitation, which is territorial adjustments consequent upon that population increase. And third is identification for special purposes, like reservations for special classes, SCs, STs, women. Now, right? So these are the 3 things which you normally would expect. You can do it before 2024. You can get rid of the first 2 steps. You can say we will go by the 1971 census, but you still need the identification process.
Right.
Now, how are these processes identified? Which seats will go for women? Only 1/3. You have to identify those 1/3, right? Now there's going to be a competition. Every sitting MP, every party is interested in saying, no, not this constituency, right? Who decides that? That's the job of the Election Commission. That's stage 3. Now, that stage can't be dispensed with because you have to an identification procedure. That procedure takes long. Why? Because the Election Commission, because it's a quasi-judicial function, right? You have to hear all the parties. You first set out proposals. You publish them. Then you publish a date when you will consider all counter proposals from stakeholders. You will call them. You will set a date. And then people will come and be heard. Evidence can be led. This commission has the power for the determination of constituencies to see which is the most appropriate constituency. You wanted to do this 3rd step, right? There'll be heartburn. That's what I said in Parliament. Supposing we take out Wayanad, right? Rahul Gandhi is going to complain. We take out some parliamentary constituency in West Bengal, the TMC is going to complain. Why this? They have to be heard. And there's a final procedure which after everybody's heard, you've done natural justice, right? There's finality to it. But the process of natural justice has to be gone through.
This is where the other question comes in, which is that your government has been in power for 9.5 years. Why did you think of this bill only now, which left you with no time to implement it before 2024?
I'll tell you that, right? And I made that statement in Parliament too. I answered that. I first said, why not 2014? Why not our first term? I said, what did you all do in your tenure of 10 years, UPA, for instance? Right? You did nothing. We did all the women's social justice, financial access, dignity issues. We had to first give them that. Political representation is a final step in empowering women. They had done 0. And I pointed out, were you not stirred by the shame of open defecation? What did they think? Did they even think about it? They had no sensitivity. That's what I kept telling them. So between 2014 to 2019, we first had to empower them socially and economically and dignity. We gave them a sense of dignity.
Now, Mahesh Jethmalani, you're a lawyer as well, so I want to understand this from you. There are some members of the Congress party and independent commentators who have talked about the fact that actually Article 82, which was amended in 2001, brought in a clause by which the first census after 2026 is the one that will be the basis of a delimitation exercise. So according to them, delimitation cannot happen on the basis of 2026 census. It will have to wait till 2031 census. And by that time, it will be too late to even apply the women's reservation for even 2034. So they are contending that actually it will be implemented only by 2039. How do you respond to that? First of all, the issue of the Article 82 that they've brought.
Shivani, one of the people who've done this is Yogendra Yadav. With the greatest respect to him, he should stick to his strength of psephology, which also has not turned out to be pretty accurate, and stay away from law or take some legal advice. Look, 82's opening line says that it is mandatory. It's a condition that every time you have a census, right, you must have. That's the main part of 82 article, right? Every time you have a census, you must have a readjustment. But the article only says this, that it won't be necessary, right, to have a readjustment after every census, a territorial readjustment after census, as the main part of the article prescribes, right, until 2026. It is permissive, not prohibitive. It doesn't say you can't do it. I mean, just now, when you had the northeastern states, right, you had a delimitation commission. When you had elections in the northeastern states, right? You had a delimitation commission, and for Jammu and Kashmir, you had a delimitation commission, and these delimitation commissions, incidentally, have to be headed by a former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, headed by Justice Rajya Desai. The delimitation which has been challenged in the Supreme Court, and not on this ground, by the way, 84, done by the delimitation commission of 2020. Now, if you couldn't have a delimitation commission at all, how did this 2020 commission come about? It is because that proviso which you are talking about says it is not necessary. You don't have to do it after. You don't have to mandate. It is not compulsory to do it after. But this time, in this situation, you are having a special reservation for women. So you have to do it. Necessary to do it. The word is, it is not necessary to have until the first census of 2026, then it becomes mandatory again. Right now, it's
a completely different reading of the article, in that sense.
With this respect, it's a poor and shallow reading of the article.
And
it's motivated to put some little, eggshells in the path of what the Modi government has done. Let me assume that that's the right construction. They can remove that impediment anytime by a constitution when they're ready.
Right.
What's the big deal?
Right. So even that constitutional hurdle can be removed.
Of course, it can be removed. Practical hurdles can't be removed of time.
So you are saying there is no such bar. Actually, the women's reservation can become a reality before 2029 general elections. In fact, in your speech in Parliament, you said that by 2026 state elections, it can actually become a reality.
Yes. I mean, yes, it can be. And that's the part where I believe the Modi Sarkar can do it better than anybody else.